Do we have someone that can say 3, 2, 1? Because we,
Dustin, you'll push the button till that turns live, and then you're,
okay,
now it's
you're gonna record me?
all of our meetings. Oh, okay, I was like,
I call this meeting of the Perryton Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members are present. This meeting has been duly called. The notice this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Would you all pray with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we're so very, very grateful for all of the many blessings you brought before us. We thank you for the opportunity to serve. We thank you for the opportunity to live in this community. We ask your guidance. We ask your help in all decisions we make here this evening be within your will for this district, for this community, and for our individual selves. In thy heavenly name we pray. Amen. The fortunate part about everybody is they're not going to have to hear my voice very much tonight. Do we have anybody for open forum? We do not.
You think you're gonna get out of the second meeting for the day, or what?
Triple. Well, first on our agenda is going to be our auditor's report, financial condition of the district after our audit this fall. Mr. Chambers.
All right, thanks for having me. You have 3 documents there in front of you. We're gonna start with the one that's bound with the blue binding. And this is the annual financial report for the district. Now, keep in mind, when I'm going through this, this is as of August 31st, 2022. So any financial information Brittany gives you tonight could vary significantly. Here we're gonna jump to page 2. It's gonna be on Brown Graham and Company letterhead. It's the independent auditor's report. There, the first paragraph is the opinion. Like I said, we audited these financial statements for the government as of August 31st, 2022. And we issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. It's the best opinion you can get. A couple paragraphs down from that, we talk about responsibilities. You'll need to be aware that these financial statements are your responsibility as well as Brittany's. We can't be your independent auditor and take responsibility for the financial statements. There on the next page, top paragraph talks about our responsibilities. We have to issue an opinion on these using auditor judgment and a risk-based approach. So what that means, we don't look at everything. If we did, we'd be here forever. Bottom paragraph down there, required supplementary information. Governmental auditing standards require additional information supporting the financial statements. We'll look at that in a little more detail later. Next page, there's TEA requires some additional reporting, as well as because the district gets more than $750,000 in federal funding, we have to do what's called a single audit, and we'll talk about that here at the end. All right, on the next page starts the management discussion and analysis. This is summarized financial information. We do not audit this, and it comes straight from the financial statements, so we're not gonna look through any of that. Go ahead and jump over to page 12. This starts the basic financial statements. Now, your district has 2 types of financial statements. This is what's called the government-wide financial statements. It's on the full accrual basis of accounting, so similar to a business enterprise. You can see there's 2 columns here. The first one, the governmental activities, that makes up everything from your general fund and all your federal, state, and local funds. That middle column that says business type, that's the Ranger Roundup Learning Center. We'll focus on the governmental activities column here. Up at the top, you can see cash and current investments of $9.3 million. That's a $700,000 increase compared to last year. A few lines down, you'll see your capital assets section. Keep in mind, this is the historical cost of the assets, net of any accumulated depreciation, so it's not a fair market value of the assets the district currently holds. Down in the bottom of the liability section, due within 1 year and due in more than 1 year, $13.1 million, that's the bonded debt that the district currently has outstanding. And the 2 lines below that, the net pension liability and net OPEB liability, that's an estimate issued by the state auditor's office through the TRS. You have $9.1 million in a liability there. Keep in mind, that is an estimate. You're not gonna get a bill for that. That's the number to say if every district employee retired today, that would be your liability.
It's just an accounting entry.
It is. Yeah, it's you know, one thing to keep in mind, the district contributes on behalf of employees, and they made all the required contributions throughout the year. So they're good there. And then that bottom section on your net position, the bottom, 16.8 million in total net position. But right above that, you'll see unrestricted, and that is negative 8.9 million. The reason that's negative is because of that pension and OPEB liability. Okay? Any questions there? All right, next page. Statement of activities or your income statement. That first column, the expenses down there of 24.7, that's the cost of the services provided. Your next column, charges for services, that includes things like your athletic activities as well as your local food sales. And then your operating grants and contributions are your federal, state, and local grant funding. And then your capital grants and contributions, that has to deal with the HVAC, the science building, all your ESSER funding that's capital related. Okay, and then if we drop down over there on the next page at the bottom, your general revenue section includes your property tax revenue, your state funding, to get you down to an increase in net position for the year of 1.38 million. Comparing that to last year, that was a decrease of 691,000. Okay, from here we can jump over to page 16. This is your fund financial statements. It's on a different basis called the modified accrual basis. It doesn't include any debt and it doesn't include any capital assets. When you do purchase capital assets, it's an expense in the year that you pay for it. Okay, so once again, two different columns here, general fund and then your other funds, once again, your federal, state, and local grant funds. General fund there, you can see top two lines, cash and investments of 8.3 million. That represents 91% of the total assets of the general fund. And that's enough cash to cover 4.9 months of operating expenses. Next section down in the liabilities, about the fifth other governments, that's a pretty 183,000. That's the excess foundation revenue that you got above what you earned for the year. And so they'll offset that against future foundation payments. And then bottom section, your fund balances, 6.8 million with 6.6 of that being unrestricted to its use. That unrestricted fund balance of 6.6 million, that would cover four months of operating expenses. So typically we're looking for a range of 3 to 6 months. So you all are right there in line with that. Any questions there? All right, next page, 17. This is a listing of the items that were required to convert from this fund basis we're talking about now into the full accrual basis. We don't need to go through any of those. Next page, statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Once again, general fund column. Up there at the top, total revenues of just over $20 million. That's a decrease of 280,000 compared to the prior year, which is related to property tax collections. Next section, your expenditures of 20.1 million. That's an $850,000 increase, most of that coming from the instruction category. Likely related to some additional ESSER funding where some monies are in a different fund this year. Get down there to the third from the bottom, you increase total fund balance by $338,000. Any questions there? All right, next page is another reconciliation for conversion. We'll go over here to page 20. These are proprietary funds, This is the Ranger Roundup Learning Center. Call your attention here to a couple numbers that have never been on these financial statements before. In the non-current assets, you've got a right to use lease asset. And then a few lines down from that, you've got a right to use lease liability. There was a new governmental auditing standard that came out this year where material leases have to get capitalized. And so the lease that you have with the First Christian Church for the daycare center is now an asset and a liability on these financial statements. Now for your general fund, you've got several copiers, but they were insignificant enough that we didn't have to implement it for those. That would have been a pretty big deal to have to do it for a whole bunch of copiers, because every single one of those would have had different terms and a different calculation. Now, if you continue to increase the number of leases that you have, we will have to implement that once it gets above a certain threshold.
What is that threshold?
We determine that based on, you know, prior year results, and it's our judgment on what materiality is, because we issue our opinion on a materiality basis. Okay, so really, that's not just a concrete number, it's different with every district. Yours could change significantly next year. Next page, income statement for your Ranger Roundup. Up there at the top, total operating revenues of $558,000 compared to $380,000 last year. And operating expenses of $489,000, which is a decrease of $30,000. And if you'll notice, there's no subsidies this year, you know, from the hospital or from the general fund. So this fund actually operated positively this year. You increased the net position by $69,000. And there on the next page is just the statement of cash flows, alternate representation of the income statement. There you can see total increase in cash of just over $6,500 for the fund. Next page is another set of financial statements for your fiduciary funds, which are your scholarship funds as well as your student activity funds. They're separate because those aren't district monies. You can't use it for operations. So they're presented separately and they're not included on the government-wide financial statements. Okay, that covers the financials. Does anybody want to go back and look at anything or talk about anything else there? All right, we'll jump over here to 26. This starts the notes to the financial statements. The first several pages are note 1. It's a carry forward from year to year. It's a listing of all the district's policies that are current in place related to accounting. If there was anything significant that changed, we would talk about here, but there wasn't, so we can jump all the way to 35. There at the top of 35 is just a roll forward of the capital asset activity for the district for the year. Total asset additions of $617,000. That's related to the completion of the softball project, portable science building, the door project, and the beginnings of the HVAC project. A couple lines below that, total depreciation for the year of just over $1.5 million. The schedule right below that is the building space that got capitalized at the church, and you can see that it's gonna amortize over the life of the actual lease. Okay, so it's got about 10 more years left on that, a little less than 10 years. All right, from here we can go to page 40. Here's a roll forward of the bonded debt as well as the loan that the general fund has for the lighting project. Second column from the right, down at the bottom you can see you've got $12.3 million in outstanding bonds and notes as of the end of the year. And then on the next page are the debt service requirements related to those bonds for the next 5 years and then thereafter. And the bottom there on page 41, that's the lease liability. It's getting amortized over the effective interest rate of 5%. On the next page up at the top, that's the amortization of that lease. Now the next several pages are just some disclosures related to your fund balance, which you can see that there on the basic financial statements, and then several pages of required disclosures on the pension and OPEB plan and recently issued accounting pronouncements. So that's where we can cut a little bit of this time off. We won't go through any of those. Jump over here to page 64. Now here's another lease footnote, but this is the ones that are held in your general fund for the copiers. And this just shows the future lease requirements related to those and just a disclosure that those weren't capitalized this year. And then there at the bottom, note W, your construction commitments are related to the HVAC project, estimated total cost and completion date there. Okay, here we can go to 66. This starts the required supplementary information. Page 66 is your budget versus actual for your general fund. And we're gonna focus on the very right column there in the middle section on your expenditures. All of those numbers are positive, means that your budgeted expenditures exceeded your actual for the whole year. Down there, third line from the bottom, you budgeted a deficit of $196,000, but came in with an increase in your fund balance of $338,000. Okay, after this, several more pension and OPEB schedules, as well as combining financial statements, which is the detail of all your federal, state, and local grant funds. Nothing significant this year that I feel like we need to go through on that. So we can go to page 92. Okay, here starts the TEA required schedules. Here's a schedule of your delinquent property taxes receivable. On page 93, the middle two columns show your maintenance and effort, or maintenance and operations, and your debt service collections. Total of $9.6 million, which represents 97% of your total levy for the year. Okay, next page, 94. Here's your budget versus actual for your child nutrition program. Once again, middle section there on the far right. Budget expenditures were in excess of actual expenditures by $7,400. And then third line from the bottom, you budgeted a balanced budget, but actually increased your fund balance by $107,000 in the food service fund. That's directly related to the district operating under the SSO provision for the food service program for the year. So this is a very common thing for school districts this year. Several of them, now y'all didn't jump into this category, but you're only allowed to have 3 months of operating expenditures and fund balance in your food service fund. So that's one thing. Now I know y'all went back to the National School Lunch Program, so that shouldn't be an issue, but that's one thing to keep in mind there. And there on the next page is your budget versus actual for your debt service fund. Once again, all positive budget variances. Third line from the bottom, budgeted an increase of $38,000, actually had an increase of $42,000. Okay, we jump over here to page 98 now, and this starts the compliance section. And we don't do any test of controls, but we do consider your controls. If we were to have any issues related to the internal controls, we would talk about them here, but we didn't. So that's a good thing. And then we also, like I said before, we had to do a single audit because you received more than $750,000 in federal funding. And the single audit this year was all of the ESSER money. So we do a specific detailed audit on all of those funds and pick some specific transactions just to make sure that the district is spending those funds in compliance with the OMB, which is the governing body. Everything there, we didn't run across any issues with that or have any recommendations about that for the district as well. Okay, that'll wrap up the audit report unless anybody has any questions. Okay, a couple other items here. We'll look at the first letter, the thicker letter on Brown Raymond Company letterhead. This is just some required communications, and it's really a summary of how the audit went. The first page there deals with responsibilities again, and we've already talked about those, so we won't go through any of those. On the next page, up at the top, we're required to communicate with the board president as well as the superintendent and just, let them know how the audit's gonna work and give them an idea of what we're doing. And so we did have that conversation with Mr. Bill and Mr. Morales. Next section down, once again, for me to be your auditor, I have to be independent with respect to the district as well as follow ethical standards, and I feel that I have as well as my entire firm. Next section on significant risks. This is nothing to be alarmed of. We've always operated under a risk-based approach, but now we're required to communicate that. Every single audit client that we have has significant and fraud risks related to revenue recognition and management override controls. We don't have any issues this year related to those, but they're always considered when we're doing our audit. Okay, there on the next page. Significant accounting estimates. These financial statements do include estimates. We didn't notice any bias in any of those estimates, but they're related to the collectability of your property taxes, the depreciation on your capital assets, and the pension and OPEB liability. There on the bottom, financial statement disclosures. We hit most of those when we were talking through the audit report. We won't go through any of those. Next page, significant unusual transactions. We weren't aware of any. Nobody from the district represented that they were aware of any significant unusual transactions. Next section, we encounter no difficulties in dealing with management and performance of the current year audit. Brittany might disagree with you, but. Next section, uncorrected and corrected misstatements. So for the financial statements to be in accordance with GAAP, which is what we report on, we have to recommend audit adjustments every single year. It's just the nature of what it is. Most of those are reclass type entries to get that into the correct format. None of the adjustments that we posted were material in nature. They didn't affect your financial statements that significantly, but a listing of all of them are attached to here. And, you know, it's a pretty significant number of pages, but the majority of those are that conversion process from the fund basis to the government-wide basis. If you're looking through those, you have any questions or anything, feel free to get in contact with Brittany. She knows how to get a hold of me.
You agreed with all those, Brittany?
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, Brittany reviewed them, she approved them, sent them back to me. I couldn't be here if she didn't.
Yeah.
Disagreements with management, we didn't have any there. And then also that last paragraph there, the last piece of audit evidence that we get is a representation letter that both Mr. Morales as well as Brittany signed, just basically stating they're not aware of anything else that would materially affect these financial statements. They provided us with entire access to all the district's records as we asked. Okay, any questions on any of that?
Dustin, what are you seeing from districts that this kind of, that might not have a glowing report like we do? What are kind of the gotchas that you're seeing? Is there anything common that we need to watch for as a board, or Brittany needs to
Well,
watch for?
we're fixing to talk about something here that's a big gotcha. No, but that's a
Okay,
good
go ahead.
question. Now, most of the time, and where you run into bigger issues are when those adjustments we're talking about, when they get material. Because once they get to a material level, we are required to communicate that through the audit report. And so we would have had a finding, and then what you have to do at that point, you have to present a corrective action plan, and that gets sent to the TEA, and then they respond to that. Sometimes you have to do additional work, you know, explain some things like that, but that's the biggest thing that will get you into hot water are the audit adjustments,
Okay.
as well as findings on administration of the federal programs.
Okay.
And so, you know, a lot of the times, special education, you know, one of the big issues there is time and effort for teachers. We did have that issue with your district several years ago. We communicated it, it got corrected, and we haven't seen that issue again. And then, you know, the food service program will run into that every once in a while related to eligibility calculations, you know, things like that, making sure that all the kids are in the proper category. But, you know, once again, we don't. It is a recommendation, okay? It's not considered a finding, it's not part of your report, but when we do come across things that we feel need to be communicated, we do it through this form. This will, but you're not gonna get any type of corrective action requirements or anything related to this. Okay, so what this letter is saying here is that part of our test work, we picked some pretty specific transactions. Okay, in the general fund, we typically go with a random type sample of 60 transactions. And what we're looking for and what we're trying to do with that process is test the processes and the policies that the district represents that are in place. Okay, so we're talking about, you know, 2 signatures on checks if that's required, purchase orders, you know, who can approve purchase orders and things like that. So that's what we're looking for. So this year, related to that test, for the general fund, we did pick 60. There was 12 instances where the invoice was dated before the purchase order. Okay, so what that means is that purchases are getting initiated before they're approved. And so the risk with that is that you're outside of your budget, or it's something that, you know, intentional or not, could be a fraudulent transaction, I guess you could say.
It's a requirement, right, because of public funds?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're dealing with public funds, and so, you know, you wanna make sure that the proper level of management is reviewing that in a timely manner. That's not always a deal with management, though. You know, some employees feel like they have the right to go ahead and make those purchases without getting that approval.
Forgiveness instead of permission.
Exactly. And so we felt it was necessary this year really to help out the business office with their processes and make sure that people are doing what they're supposed supposed to when it comes to getting things approved. For your Ranger Roundup Learning Center, there were 15 transactions picked, 7 of which the invoice was dated before the purchase order. And then for your student activity funds, 25 is what we selected, and 15 of those, the invoice was before the purchase order date. And so this, you know, if this is something that would continue, it could possibly lead up to a higher level of a significant deficiency or even a material weakness. I don't expect that. I will say during the actual audit, I communicated that to Mr. Bill, and I also had a conversation with your athletic director, just explaining to him what this was gonna look like. And right away, he was already getting that corrected. And so I know that the efforts by the district are already in place, working on getting that resolved.
Are you saying that most of those were in the athletic department, or is that where you?
No,
No.
I'm not saying that. I just happened to get to talk to him while I was here. Yeah. No,
That was the
we're not,
15 of the 25.
yeah, we're not talking about one specific department. We're just talking about a kind of a district-wide thing.
Everybody does it.
Everybody does it, and it happens everywhere. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty common thing that we deal with. You know, a lot of the times you need something and you don't have the time to go into the business office and get it approved, and so just go for it.
What's the penalty if we actually, it was a continuing process, made it resolved?
I mean, you have the option of letting your employees know that if they do that before it's approved, then it's their responsibility.
To pay for it.
Yep. I mean, if you wanna get to that level, you're more than welcome to, and you can blame everything on me if you'd like to.
Is there a penalty for us?
No.
It's
No.
just a
No.
more procedure.
Yeah, it's just, this is really just a recommendation to help strengthen your internal controls.
Perfect.
Not a significant issue we're dealing with here, but I felt like it warranted y'all's attention. Okay, that concludes my presentation, unless anybody has anything else.
Other questions?
Thanks, Dustin.
Okay, yeah, thank y'all, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I just do wanna say thank you to Brittany and all of her staff, they're super helpful. I feel, you know, a lot of the times when you have a turnover in the administration of the business department, it doesn't go so well, but I feel like it went really well this year. So kudos to
All
Brittany.
right.
Thanks, Rick.
Good job. Success.
Is this an action item that we have to do?
Yes.
We will need a motion to approve the financial statement,
moved.
approve the auditor's
Second.
presentation. We have a motion, we have a second to approve the presentation. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. And if I look at each, a lot of.
Sleeping, go for it.
Everyone's kids.
Yeah,
have
read those
script.
pensions. If you're trying to
We,
follow.
for us,
Oh man, that's a good way to do it.
Okay. You wanna get it signed?
That's what I didn't know what else. I don't like those. I just end up picking at it.
Here, this one's a little bit- let me take that. Yeah, cause I gotta try to get it.
I like tablets.
Aviation.
Personally.
Alright.
Every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dog America.
Is that okay? Stay for back.
Alright.
Check and see, just to see. If they're all here, we might as well get it taken care of. And then we
You have
can-
everybody here, Colby? Aviation, who's?
I'm one of several. It's,
Oh, okay. Alright. Just didn't wanna go into closed session if you guys.
Yeah.
Try to move you guys up if we could.
I haven't been to one of your board member or board meetings, so I thought
Was that told them 7:30, okay.
Perfect.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead.
Go take a
The
nap.
board will now convene in a closed meeting to discuss the following items posted on our agenda this evening as allowed by Texas Government Code 551.074 personnel matters, 551.076 security devices, and 551.082 student discipline. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in the closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 6:30. Which should work perfect. We don't have more than an hour of closed session. We'll be back by 30 for that.